I'm Michelle Renee, founder and CEO of Informative Services, which is a savvy research and education firm where we specialize in discovering undervalued assets with a concentration in the crypto markets. Yes, the crypto markets. In 2018, my research team discovered Veritaseum, which means truth. Reggie Middleton is the disruptor in chief and founder of Veritaseum Capital. Mr. Middleton has definitely been on an extensive journey. While in this journey, securing various patents in regards to peer-to-peer capital markets, which is disruptive to say the least. Our legacy systems are being migrated to blockchain technology, which is and will touch all sectors of the broader markets. While those aware are competing, yes they are, to find their place in this new world of technologies. I just want to take just a small portion of the time to thank all of you for attending, because time is very, very valuable. And those who are acquainted with me, yes, know time is my number one currency. Keep in mind, for this epic uncut interview, there will be a Q&A session. Please use the comment section to enter your questions respectfully, all right? But not further ado, now please welcome Mr. Reggie Middleton.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I am well.
You're well, you're looking well, and thank you again for attending this uncut interview. All right, I really appreciate you, Reggie, and your time, because it's a lot of things I definitely want to share with my audience, because many things are being shaken up in this global economy, and you are shaking things up. Yes, you are. So just those who are unfamiliar with you, just give us a little bit of your background, and then we'll take a deep dive after that.
I am a father of three now grown children. I live in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a native New Yorker. I have a background in high finance, valuation, investment, financial engineering, real estate, and technology. And as of the last 10 years, I've been in crypto. Crypto as in the broad, not just the little things that go up and down that you see on CoinDesk, but the infrastructure, the macroeconomics of it all, how it's put together, business models, etc. I approach it from my own perspective, not so much the stuff that you see in much of the media. So I believe there's a lot of education to be had and to pursue. And that's it in a nutshell.
All right. So we are having this uncut interview because I want those who are viewing to basically go down this journey with you. We want to experience or share with us, how did you even come up with the invention peer-to-peer capital markets? How did this happen? Why did it happen? Okay, just give us this, take us to the beginning of how this even occurred, this concept, this invention.
Okay, so I'm going to go through a quick timeline. So outside of being a stay-at-home father, I'm one of those guys that takes being a daddy very, very seriously. I love being a father. While being a stay-at-home father, I did a lot of reading, self-learning, studying. After graduating, I'm a Bison, graduated from Howard University, Washington, D.C. And I taught myself investment, financial valuation, financial engineering, etc. That's where I got my background from. I bought undervalued gentrifying real estate in the Brooklyn area. That taught me the relationships between the macro, the micro, sociological gentrification, etc. When 1 + 1 started to equal 119, I said, let's sell that stuff off. And then after selling it off at a significant percentage gain, I said, I should short everybody who did business with me because this is a massive bubble. I ended up doing that through buying out of money puts, and I hired my own analytical team. I then put out research reports on Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, General Growth Property, malls, banks, insurance companies, etc. And they started falling like rocks, and I looked like a rock star. When in reality, I knew that 1 + 1 didn't equal 119. I carried that business on for several years until the government decided to rejigger math, where 1 + 1 equaled, guess what? 119. So those insolvent companies look solvent just like that. At the same time, I had a client of mine where I sold the research. They asked me to look into Bitcoin. 2010, I ignored them. 2011, I ignored them. 2012, I ignored them. 2013, I decided to take a look at it. Looked at the Bitcoin wiki, the Bitcoin white paper. My jaw hit the ground. I was like, wow, this is a good idea. I mean, a very, very good idea. I thought I had missed the boat. But in reality, not only did I miss the boat wasn't even completely built yet. So this is roughly June 2013. I hired some not lawyers. Even lawyers so often they can't get them off my tongue, right? Hired some developers. We created some sample code, got it to run. And before the end of 2013, we created the first peer-to-peer swap on a Bitcoin blockchain. I consider that to be a monumental milestone. I believe I was the first one to do it. I was super excited. We hired more advanced developers, a team. We created multiple iterations of it, and we had it working. It was basically the Uniswap in 2013, 2014.
Wow.
At the same time, we patented the solutions that we created to circumnavigate the problems and limitations of the Bitcoin blockchain and other things. I didn't think anything of it at the time. It was just prudent business protocol. But I did believe that the idea and the patents were monumental. I was the only one except for my business partner. Fast forward 6-7 years later, they started granting. Now, in between that time, I had two entities. One ran out of money, despite the fact that the guy that predicted the great financial crisis.
So I want to call
banks. Yes.
Reggie predicted the great financial crisis. So I just want you all to understand that, okay? This is not a person who just came on the scene, okay? And remember, I heard him say he was self-taught. He went to Howard, but he was self-taught. That says a million words in itself. And he was able to identify something that was happening in the financial markets that wasn't right. He saw it, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't want to hear what you had to say. But at the end of the day, the rubber meets the road, and the Bear Stearns and Lehman Brothers, the collapse, and then so many other financial institutions collapsed after that. But Mr. Reggie Middleton, Reggie identified that. He was able to identify that. That sets him apart, even right there. But I'm going to let him proceed on with his outline. I just want to understand the magnitude of Reggie's mind and how he's able to see things. Okay, and he used it for the good. He did that.
So during that time, I had a whole team of analysts who worked for me. We did this with significant detail, 30 to 50 page reports for every call. Google Reggie Middleton Boom Bust blog, The Breaking of the Bear, and that's the Bear Stearns report. You'll see the detail, and this was months before Bear Stearns collapsed. We did the same thing with by 86 other calls. The European debt crisis we predicted in significant detail, etc. I took this skill set and this view of the world, this macro view of the world, and applied it to crypto technology, blockchain technology back in 2013. I wasn't necessarily smarter than anybody else. I came and looked at it from a different direction. So when I first found it, I thought of peer-to-peer capital markets, where everybody else thought of Bitcoins, speculating on prices and remittances. And that's what the patent was based upon. Basically, peer-to-peer capital markets, the conditional transfer of value from point A to point B without Big Daddy looking over your shoulder or controlling it.
And that's
And
huge.
it,
Peer to
it
peer, person to person.
yes.
Can we just hold right there?
Okay.
Person to person, transacting without the need of who exactly. I just want you to break that down, because generally, if we want a home loan, we're basically applying at, let's say, for instance, a JP Morgan Chase, and we're waiting on them. It's going through underwriting, then we're waiting on them to get a year and nay, but it's somebody in between us in reference to acquiring that particular loan. So how does peer-to-peer, it should be self-explanatory, but I just want you to break down just simple, like person to person, you're taking out that in between entity. Can you just please just touch on that just a little?
We're taking out the need for the entity in between. Sometimes the entity in between adds value. If that entity adds value, you want that entity there. He, she, or they, or it. If it doesn't add value, it doesn't belong there. So when you say peer-to-peer, without the need of whom, the answer is no one. Okay? Peer-to-peer, period. Optionally, they add somebody in. Optionally. This, of course, rubs a lot of entities the wrong way and people, particularly when the other person in between. And that became obvious. We could go over that a little later on.
Yes.
And so we started developing that in 2013. I had a startup, despite the fact that I'm the guy that made all these calls, the European debt crisis, etc. Made a lot of calls, roughly 86 to 90 something. I had a problem raising capital. That was sort of interesting. If you look at me, I won the CNBC Stock Draft Investment Challenge 2 years consecutively in a row. Done a lot. So I'm very strong track record showing that I really know what I'm talking about. Little here and there. Not going to get into, the politics of it all. We wound that down because we were trying to avoid adverse regulatory attention. Didn't want it, the government getting pissed at us. Had a problem getting capital. We did our ICO on the Ethereum blockchain. Rebuilt everything from scratch with different functionality, totally new operation. And we started creating some really fantastic things. Autonomous investment vehicles that were peer-to-peer. So you weren't investing in investment funds or hedge funds. You were basically operating on your own. It's a tool that allowed you to go out and gain value, exposure to other things. Very new, fantastic. I was very proud of it. I got a call from a regulator. And my first thought was, why are you calling me with all the dirty, slimy, operators around? I'm, a very clean slate. We did presentations for that regulator. I'm not going to name a regulator, okay, because they're very aggressive and they've shown they don't like me. And the presentation went very well to a lot of the heads ups in multiple cities. And the following day, I was told to shut everything down. It was a complete surprise since I felt the team and I knocked it out of the park. And that was pretty much the beginning of the end. So over several years, there was a lot of things not positive. And eventually, they were bringing us to court.
So let's start. So okay. Why do you think you were targeted by the SEC specifically? Why do you think?
I'm not going to say exactly why, because, and you said a name that I didn't. I never said it with the SEC. Okay.
Okay.
I was spending right before the actual trial was supposed to start $730 something thousand every 2 weeks. Okay. Startups can't afford to go toe to toe with these guys.
Right.
Okay. And it's not even safe for me to discuss anymore, but long story short, I decided to bow out. I never admitted or denied any of the allegations, but I was stripped of all my capital and all the company's capital. Essentially all of it. Now, fast forward, other entities, I'm not going to name who they are, regulatory, have attacked almost everybody in the industry. And now they're going after almost everybody. So back then, it looked like I was an outlier. Now, it seems to be very clear for people who are objective and understand the field that they're taking out anybody who's not traditional finance.
Okay, so basically what we're seeing in crypto right now, the crypto markets and different projects, like they're being basically regulatory entities are coming to them and basically, giving them, some issues, So why again they're attacking? Why do you think again that you believe is it the superior technology? Is it that it gives possibly people options, freedom, or is it just they just possibly just want things to stay the same or have those same entities in control? Can you speak to that? If not, I understand. But just because people who are not savvy in the crypto markets, they're seeing this on TV, so they're just assuming bad, crypto's bad, bad because that's what's coming through the television. So how can they decipher from that?
Well, anybody with a TV PhD is probably not well educated. Okay, so be careful.
TV PhD.
Yeah, be careful getting your education from TV, or if you're younger, social media, which is the new TV. Remember, the media, depending how far you go back, said that black men were 3/5 of a man. Jim Crow laws were laws. They said that women couldn't vote and didn't deserve to vote. Women weren't smart enough to be CEOs. Go down the line. Irish were animals. In New York, the Irish immigrants were literally considered animals. Okay? You do not take what you imbibe through a media portal or platform that is controlled by a very small minority, because all you're going to get is that very small minority's viewpoint. And you might not even get their viewpoint. You'll just get their ulterior motive of where they want you to think or how they want you to think. Right. Very, very important. I say, if you're going to research something, you go to primary sources. You want to find out what a legal case is about, you go to the actual transcripts of the depositions and you read what everybody had to say. Might be laborious, but you get the truth. You want to get a summary or synopsis, do that, but you're going to get somebody's opinion, or you're going to get what somebody wants you to think. There is no easy way out. Do the work, or have somebody do the work for you. Think, or let someone do the thinking for you. Successful people think on their own. Sheep allow other people to do the thinking. Very, very important. Probably the most important thing I can say.
Oh wow,
think for yourself.
That was huge what you just said as well. And when you're speaking about doing your own research, all right, not just seeing what's surface. And I do want to bring this up because I will have people Informative Services. We have a great research team, and again, we've been looking and tracking Veritaseum for quite some time. And then when I will tell people about the project, they instantly go to Google. Oh my God, this, the SEC, da 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 da. I said, well, what we did, we went and read your response to the SEC.
Okay. It paints a very different picture, doesn't it?
It paints a different picture. All right. So if you're taking in information, making sure that you know where to go to get the alpha information, not just things that have surfaced. So I do want to say that, and that response was very, very good. I'm gonna tell you why, because it told you about Veritaseum, what it does, utility. It gave me even a more greater insight to Veritaseum. So I do want to share that with you. Also, we spoke about your journey in reference to we got to a certain point. There was a clip I heard of you, and you basically have a relation to the stock market, how your technology, how that will work. Do you remember that little clip that you said in reference to, you gave an analysis in reference, this is this to the stock market, this is this to lawyers, like smart contracts?
Oh, yes, I remember, yeah.
Can you please tell the audience or refresh those who do know? I really love how you described that. I think it was very simplistic.
Okay, so I don't remember exactly how I did it, but basically, I invented a wallet, and that's back when I carried a wallet. It was a little leather thing. I don't really do that anymore. And that wallet enables every person to be their own bank without a bank, to trade assets without an exchange, and to create and transact with contracts without a lawyer. Autonomy, self-sovereignty, true peer-to-peer finance and economy. That rubs a lot of people the wrong way, particularly if you're in exchange, a lawyer, or a broker, or a bank. All very powerful lobbies. And that is the essence of what we patented, the technology that allows that to happen.
This technology, like I say, when I think about it, I try to wrap my mind around it because it's so massive. It's huge. It's to the point that I think of legacy. I think of dynastic wealth. I think of disruption. Okay. This technology, your technology, is basically disrupting the financial system, period. You literally created a new financial system. So therefore, there would be some pushback, you would think, because everybody is not going to say thumbs up. You're going to always have those nays. And so those are the things you possibly were, you were experiencing. But you were triumphant through all of this. And so now that legal stuff is now gone away. And now your patents have been approved for the US and Japan. Let's talk about those patents. And I want to know what you were feeling when you knew that your patents were approved. Tell me, if you don't mind, where were you at when you found out? How are you feeling?
When I first found out, the first time, I was probably sitting in this seat. And once I was just walking down the street in Manhattan. I have 3 patents that have been approved and issued thus far. And we'll go through, I feel they're very powerful. I felt elation, felt vindication, and I have to be careful about what I say because the entity that came after me is very aggressive and very powerful, and it will break any entrepreneur. It's not the American way as I understand it. But one of the many allegations were that I was marketing patent applications internationally that I knew would never be approved. So 3 patents later, I feel better. Okay. The breadth of the technology that was patented, in my opinion, is monumental. It controls the conditional transfer of value from A to B without the need for an authoritative third party. So I choose these words carefully because before we patented this, you were able to send value from A to B, just not conditionally. And there are a lot of things you can do, but the patent describes in detail how to do very, very advanced financial acts, very similar to what Wall Street and the city of London are accustomed to doing. One of the things that are described, not necessarily patented, but described in the patent, because I don't want to get into what the patent covers and what doesn't, that level of specificity, are things like government-owned digital money over networks, like CBDCs. Just the concept of that, of someone who can invent something that enables that, is significant. The last time someone had control over at that level in the U.S. was James Pierpont Morgan. When he bailed out the U.S. and his friends, or his cohorts, bailed out the U.S. by writing checks, literally, and they created the Federal Reserve. James Pierpont Morgan and his cabal look, act, sound, and appear, speak very differently than I do. It goes to show either the progress of this country or the fact that with the correct drive, support, and intellectual understanding, anybody can succeed. Okay, and I'm not just anybody, but I am someone who's very, very different from those who've done something like this previously before. Other examples would be a guy who got a patent approved, and he got his approved filed a day before the competitors, And then he had 600 challenges to that patent. 600.
Wow.
After the patent was approved, he fought back. It was like 587, but rounded up to 600. He fought back all 600 of them, or 587, and beat them, and then controlled telecommunications in this country for the next century. And that was Alexander Graham Bell.
So we're looking at Reggie. This is, when I was speaking to you before, I referenced the Federal Reserve in reference to, we was on that new monetary system, but how you created this new financial system. This is monumental. This is historical. This is, a paradigm shift. This is not something just now, this technology that Reggie has created. It's for even my grandkids and their grandkids. Reggie would never, ever, ever know the people that will basically, each individual or generation that will be impacted by your technology. So I want people to understand and try to wrap their mind around the greatness of this, because again, his patents were approved, because first it was naysayers. Basically say he didn't create decentralized financing. And if you do listen, if you do educate yourself, you will find out that Reggie has stated that that's a subset. DeFi, is a subset of the peer-to-peer capital markets, which encompasses his technology. So people can call it whatever they want to call it, but at the end of the day, the underlying technology is the technology that the patents were granted upon. So I hope people really get that, because I've seen back and forth. So if people, again, go research, do your due diligence. The truth is the truth. So, and that's how I operate. I can't operate in things that that's not the truth. So obviously the United States and Japan sided with you by granting your patents. And again, congratulations. Can you tell us, if you can, it's okay, what other countries possibly will be granting this patent as well? Those patents.
Okay, well,
governments, yeah. If you
let's put it this way. I would like, and I've applied to the top economic centers in the world. So out of the top 6, sans 2 of them, I would anticipate additional patents to be granted. See if that's right. Yes. Wow. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Okay. I expect that. Okay. Now, what I expect doesn't always go through. There's this joke. This guy named Mr. Johnson, and he received a phone call, and it was a bill collector. And the bill collector said, "Mr. Johnson, when can we expect to receive payment?" And Mr. Johnson said, "You can expect to receive payment the hell you want to, but whether you get it or not, it's a different story." Mm-hmm. So I expect additional patent grants from the top economic centers in the world, but my expectations are not always coming to fruition. But I put a lot of work into it, and my worst case scenario is 1 in the US and 2 in Japan. And of course, I expect all these to be challenged, and I'm still fighting. The 600 challenges that Alexander Graham Bell faced, I feel his pain, because I've been getting challenges throughout, and they're constant. It's a constant fight. Chances are, in order to fully take advantage of these, my children and the grandchildren are going to have to do it, and I am the baseline that has to fight. And fighting is what we do in Brooklyn, right? So fighting is what I'm doing.
And there it is. And I do want to ask you about this quote, all right? When you said this in a clip, I said, whoa, it was mind-blowing. So what am I saying? All finance must come in behind us. I said, all? He didn't say half. He didn't say 90%. He said all. All finance must come in behind us. I want to know who is the all and who is the us. Can you just please clarify that? Because that is a statement out of this world.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's assuming I'm correct. Okay. So remember, I'm biased. Okay. But I also feel I'm objective. But if a biased person feels that objective, that feeling's also high. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
So if I'm correct that the digital asset along a digital ledger technology is a paradigm shift that is equates or similar to the last paradigm shift, which is the internet. Okay, and the half paradigm shift was which was cell phones, smartphones. Then you're going to have an entire sea shift from the analog way of doing business or the trusted way of doing business to the trustless way, where you can go through networks and you do not have to trust individual bodies. If I'm correct in that, and it takes off in a big way, and I own the IP infrastructure for significant portions of this, then, and I may maintain that ownership, there are a lot of ifs here, then the only way to do business is to do business through my infrastructure. And if I own that infrastructure, then I have the right to exclude, which I don't plan on excluding unless they're bad actors or those who want to compete with us in an unfair way. And you'd have to pay for me. So there's a big bridge. Let's say, I can't think of a big bridge in Chicago, but let's say there's a big bridge over one of those big freshwater lakes. Mm-hmm. Okay. You don't have to own the lake. You don't have to own both sides of the bridge. You just have to own the bridge itself. Mm-hmm. In order to cross the bridge, you have to pay the bridge on. Okay. Now, a lot of people, or especially in the crypto environment, are anti-patent. They say they're anti-IP. Mm-hmm. Most people say they don't know what IP and patents are. Mm-hmm. You know, patents are very important because it allows you to own your own property. Mm-hmm. And property is the basis of the Constitution of American business and economics. Every country that has a very, very strong patent office also has a very, very strong technology sector, also has a very, very strong economy and finance sector. The biggest patent office in the world sits in the biggest economy in the world with the largest technology center. That's the U.S. Yes. The second largest patent office in the world sits in the second largest economy. That's China. Mm-hmm. The third largest patent office in the world sits in the third largest economy. That's Japan. Now you can back that up and say, well, the EU and UK combined are bigger than Japan, and they are. But you're also combining, 18 to 23 different nations competing with one. But even if you were to do that, guess who would be the fourth largest patent office? The EPO. Mm-hmm. It covers UK and Europe. Mm-hmm. So there's a tight correlation. It is impossible to say that patents slow progress, they damage the economy, or they don't allow for technological growth. It's the exact opposite, because it allows people who create something to own it. Right. And if you can't own what you create, there's a large disincentive to create it. Now, a lot of companies, or some companies, can flourish because they don't need to legally own it, because they can use their large advantage in capital and power and simply force everybody out of the market, and they can own it. But that's not capitalism. Mm-hmm. That's not capitalism at all. That's cheating. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you don't want an economy based upon, survival of the biggest. Right. You want it based upon survival of the fittest. Mm-hmm. And that's what patents are about. And if you believe in open source software, then you believe in IP ownership, because you cannot enforce an open source contract without the contract writer owning the IP that he's trying to enforce. I can take something, make some changes to it, and make it totally cold source in its mind. But if you own the IP and the open source contract, the software license, you say that you have to donate any changes to this code back to the community. Now you enforced your ownership and the rules and rights of this IP in the contract, which is a bit of software license. So you have to be very careful about discussing things that you're not very well versed in. And I do too. But see, I try to listen a whole lot more than I talk, because that's how I learn. I would much rather learn from someone else's mistakes than me. Now, in reality, it doesn't always work like that. I gotta touch that stove and learn and lose some skin. Uh-huh. But it would have been easy if I just listened to my father when he said, "Don't touch your stove." But dudes, you gotta lose some skin. Dad knows what you're talking about.
Right. So the technology you created, like I said, is monumental, and there is a shift. Many people are feeling this shift, not just in the U.S., globally. We have AI taking over the average person's job, let's be honest, and we have technology that's growing, I mean, at a rapid pace. And we see a lot of big corporations that are laying off and possibly not going to rehire using AI or robotics to replace the average individual. What do you think about that? And how do you think the average person could leverage that? How can they compete in a AI driven blockchain world? How can they compete with that? Because things have changed, they're changing. So what can you give a blueprint or give some type of idea of or advice? What can the youth do to compete with all of this technology?
Well, study your history. I don't agree that things are changing. I think things are remaining exactly the same. Uh, there's another saying. I love these sayings, right? The only thing that remains the same is change. It's the only constant. So things have been changing from the beginning. And at every major paradigm shift, you had Luddites, and you could, look up the story of Luddites. They're a group in England who didn't want the technology of the cotton gin to take over because they felt it was going to take everybody's jobs and cause the end of the economy and world will blow up, etc. As it turned out, cotton gin eliminated the jobs for people did cotton sorting and picking by hand, but it created a bunch of new opportunities. The creation of the wheel, right, meant that you didn't have to hire people to carry a bunch of stuff. Mm-hmm. Lost a lot of those carrying jobs back in the caveman days, but you had new jobs. Mm-hmm. People building carts, people driving, etc. The invention of fire, the computer chip, the car. I remember when the car was invented, there was a lot of pushback because they said it was going to put the horse and buggy industry out of business, right. And it did. Mm-hmm. But it created many more jobs and it, destroyed. Computer industry, the same thing. Secretarial banks with people typewriters, no longer necessary, put a lot of people out of business, out of work, mm-hmm. but created 10 times many more jobs. Mm-hmm. Internet, same thing. Everybody pushed back against the internet. Remember the MPAA when they sued anybody who would download an MP3 song? Because they,
yes, I do.
They fought back. Yeah, it's going to create the end of the entertainment industry, et cetera, et cetera. And yes, it put a few people out of work and created so many more new jobs. Okay, cell phones, and now you have crypto and you have AI. Crypto has significant pushback, yes. Right? Anybody who's not licensed existing financial institution has either been attacked or will be attacked, mm-hmm. according to my personal observation in the U.S. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fear. Okay, with AI is going to eliminate a lot of jobs, and it's going to create a whole lot more. If you're worried about your job being eliminated by AI, you think AI is going to take over, common sense would dictate you, what should you be studying? You tell me.
Right? Exactly. And that's what basically I was trying to get at. What should you be studying? Common sense. If AI is taking over, maybe you should be taking some type of computer programming or data analytics, something like that, to be able to compete. So exactly, I agree. I concur with that. Going back to the crypto, you just said something that brought back to that's in my mind, that some people feel as though that they can ignore crypto, that they don't have to interact with it or it's technology. What do you say to those people who are still naysayers, basically saying crypto doesn't matter? They don't have to use it or it's not going to affect them. What do you say to those people?
Well, they just don't understand what they're talking about. So every major central bank has made a major crypto adoption. Every major one. Okay? You're going to be using crypto. You probably won't even realize you're using it. But if you use a CBDC, you're using crypto. Period. You have some, maxis, and that's a term for people who are zealously focusing on one individual slice mm-hmm. of the crypto industry. And then say, well, CBDCs are crypto. They're using encryption, right, to move money across a digital ledger. That's crypto. crypto, cryptography,
Yes.
encryption. I don't want to get into it, but it's basic. So CDCs, crypto, the distributed ledger adoption of the CME, the New York Stock Exchange, ICE, all these exchanges, storage from Fidelity, bond transfers, basically anything that requires the condition transfer of value will most likely end up using this technology, which goes back to patent and how potentially I see it. Okay? And I'm not the only one that sees it. There are entities who are fighting me over this, and they're putting out a lot of resources, hiring the biggest firms in the country, once, twice, 3 times over per firm. Okay? And they're not doing this because there's some, Instagram guy in his basement, making threats. They feel that it's a big thing. And they're trying to co-opt it like everybody else when there's a monumental invention. It doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't. But, that's the way it is for now.
Okay, got it. Before we switch to Q&A, there is one other question that I do want to ask. Maybe you can answer it or not. Well, I did see a clip of you as well, speaking about, like I said, your patents, and you're not trying to hurt the crypto market. That's not your goal whatsoever. Your technology helps, and so that's just what it is. But can you speak about the Coinbase and Circle lawsuits?
I believe that they are using technology that patented. I tried to discuss it with them. We didn't believe that they were as cooperative as they should have been, or discussing in full faith. And so we brought suit, and I'm happy to discuss it. Coinbase has a lot of issues. They now have the issue that I had with a certain body who was very aggressive, which is very interesting. I have to admit, I'm on Coinbase's side with this. Okay, 100%. Coinbase is a public company, and according to them, and according to what I've read, they detailed their operations and what they did in detail in their prospectus, and it was okayed by a large, powerful entity. And that large, powerful entity came back afterwards and sued them for that exact same thing that they allowed them to go public doing. And there's a bunch of other things, but I'm not going to get into it because that large, powerful entity is too much for me to deal with right now. So I don't want to piss them off. And if I have, I apologize, large, powerful entity. Okay, please don't mess with me anymore. But those suits were basically to get the conversation started. Okay. There's a lot of nuances and complexities. Law is complex enough as it is. Patent law is very, very complex, particularly international, okay, or US. Patent law is such a small niche. Very, very few people really understand how it works. Everything is new. There are no experts in patent and crypto patent law. That I can tell you. There are no experts in crypto. The white paper was 2008. The first transaction was in 2009.
Right.
Okay. So that was literally only 14 years ago. So to be an expert at something, you should at least put 20 years into it. There are no crypto experts. I don't care what they say. Most of the so-called crypto experts probably would know as much as I do, and I'm in a fight.
Yeah. And I believe the same thing. I said crypto hasn't been in existence for quite that long, but when people say they're expert, I'm like, well, it's only been in existence. Okay, 2008. Okay, let's fast forward now. We're still learning. So yeah. I agree. I see where you're coming from. I agree. Another thing, CBDCs, you mentioned that FedNow. Everybody's talking about the FedNow system. We've been following that for quite some time because there's something called a Banking for All Act that describes the FedNow, describes how it would interact commercial business accounts and personal accounts. And it describes the whole thing. The debit card, it describes about the United States. It describes everything of how this thing is going to work. So, but everybody is talking about it. What is your position in reference to the FedNow system? Is it something that is great for the citizens of the U.S. or because this real-time payment system? Is it something that, the pros and cons of this thing, in your opinion?
Well, I don't think there are any cons for the users of the U.S. dollar financially. The FedNow system is an upgraded messaging to Swift. It's an upgrade to Swift. Swift is it's like an upgrade to Swift. And Swift is a messaging system that allows you to send value money across, bank to bank, whether it's overseas or nationally. But it's slow. It's very slow. It's risky because it's so slow, and it needs multiple banks to do it. FedNow allows you to do it near instantaneously. The only reason you have FedNow is because of crypto. Okay, FedNow was designed to counteract the effect of stablecoins, private stablecoins, which was technology issued by or used by startups. Okay, without stablecoins and the threat of crypto, the Fed and the countries in the world would have still relied on slow, buggy, and very risky Swift. Competition breeds betterment. The reason why I'm on S23 Ultra phone, the Samsung, this device is fantastic. Okay, it does everything well, very, very well.
Okay,
camera, screen, everything. Do you know why it's so fantastic? Because they have to compete with Apple. They had to compete with Huawei, and Huawei was eating everybody's lunch.
Yes,
It's a superior device all the way around. Politically, it was taken out because it was doing so well. And it still has to compete nationally with Xiaomi and Apple and a bunch of other manufacturers. This level of competition means you're going to get a superior device. If there was enough bottlenecks in the smartphone industry to match the bottlenecks in the financial industry, the chokeholds from regulation and regulatory pitfalls, etc., then we'd be on a device where we're still doing rotary dial-ups. I'm like, hello? You at $10 a minute to dial interstate? Not to mention to leave the country. But because of this extreme competition, these phones are marvels. Every 2 or 3 years, it's like a marvel. Every 2 or 3 years in the smartphone industry is the equivalent of like 20 years of telecommunications before that. You've had just a few years of exposure to crypto and stablecoins, and it's forced the Fed to update the messaging system to something that performs just as good as stablecoins, or superior, better in many instances, except for one very important thing. It's still controlled by Big Brother. So exclusion is the name of the game there. Okay? They get to decide whether you're good enough to participate, whether you're rich enough to participate, whether you're leaning far enough to the left or to the right, you're gay enough or straight enough, black enough or white enough, or whatever other leaning or filter they can apply. And that's why the need for peer-to-peer capital markets is still there. Now, whether it will be fulfilled or not, it's a different story, because the financial system, the oligarchs of the financial system have bought up and co-opted the vast majority of this technology. I think I and a very small group, as in less than maybe 5 members, have technology that haven't been co-opted in terms of IP.
Wow.
That 5 is probably generous.
Yeah. Again, we're in this age, like I said, change has always been here. Okay. So it's just how we deal with the change. So we're going to just shift to our Q&A session, because we see all these questions popping up and they want you to basically address some of these questions. So I'm going to start with the first one. It says, do you think we will see a bull market in cryptocurrency? Everybody want to know, are we in the bull market? If we're not, when will it happen? Please respond to this question.
So I usually don't comment on prices and stuff like that, but I'll address this. What's the definition of a bull market?
Well, when prices increase over time, more so.
By how much? 20%?
Okay.
What is the price of Bitcoin now?
Around, is it under 30K now?
29.30, right?
29.8, something like that.
What was it this time last year?
Around 15.
Yeah, I think it was roughly 15,
15.
right? 16, 17. Even if it was 25, that's a bull right there. Okay. Ethereum is roughly about 2,000, 2,080, right? This time last year, Ethereum was 11, 1,300. Okay, it's the market right there. Okay, if you're focusing on prices and you're really looking to make a big difference, you want just generational wealth or dynastic wealth, which we could do an entire, episode on for a week on that, because a lot of people don't seem to understand, social classes, socioeconomic classes, and how wealth works. But at the start, instead of looking at prices, you should be looking at infrastructure. How much of the infrastructure do you own? You own enough of the infrastructure, and then infrastructure is being out globally, you could care less what the prices are, right?
Well, how could a person own a piece of the infrastructure?
The easiest way is to create it. The most direct way. If you can't do that, then you can go and buy it. You can invest directly into it. A variety of ways. I can't discuss investment safely because I'm afraid of the big bad wolf. Okay, but those are three different options. And listen, don't think that you're not smart enough or gifted enough to create infrastructure. It has to be created by somebody. I believe I created DeFi. You have so many naysayers saying, no, you didn't, because they look at me and I don't fit the mold that they were taught of what an inventor or creator looks like. But look at the inventors and creators, all shapes and sizes, right? All different backgrounds. The only common theme is they were driven, they worked hard, and they were smart, right? And they weren't the smartest, but they were the most driven. It's just that simple. Somebody has to create it. Why couldn't it be me? Why can't it be you? Why can't it be that 11-year-old girl in Sri Lanka, that 14-year-old genome in Lagos or Accra?
Yeah.
You understand what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Very true. Reggie gave a really good example of what a bull market is. Some people is looking at the top, the all-time high of Bitcoin. When are we going to get there and surpass it? So technically, so that's why some people will have, okay, that's the bull market in their head. When we're going to get to that all-time high and then surpass it. Are we there yet? But if you do compare now to last year, this time,
I think it's 70 to 100% roughly. I can't remember exactly, but it's at least, if I'm not mistaken, Bitcoin is up over 70% year to date.
Yeah.
What else is up 70% year to date besides your bills?
Yes. Or more, or eggs. I'm going to talk about eggs. Okay. Yeah. So, but people like I tell people, there's many different asset classes in this world. Crypto is the newest one that hit the scene. And I think that brings great opportunity. And I tell people, just like a baby, when a baby is born, it has to learn how to walk, talk, get its balance. And those big price swings to the upside and downside, that can be beneficial, especially if you're trading. But long term, things will possibly stabilize themselves out. But so one other question someone has: when will the Veri token be legal to purchase in the U.S.?
Well, you don't ask me.
Okay, move right on that question.
I'm not of the mindset that it's illegal, but not everybody agrees with my mindset. I'm not going to discuss the Veri token again because the big bad wolf has so much more firepower in terms of litigation resources than I do. So I'm not going to bother. But you can talk to the Veri community, which is vibrant, active, smart, and you can reach them on Telegram via Veritaseum Official. There's a couple of scam groups there that mimic the Veritaseum group. Be careful. Or you can interact with the Veri DAO, which is a DAO that consists of active members of active holders of Veritaseum tokens. And that's at DAO_Veri on Twitter. At DAO_VERI.
comments, please. Yes. Okay, they'll put
Yeah.
that in the comments as well.
Okay.
Okay, Miss Titia has a question. This is kind of a two-part question. Okay. Also, what are your thoughts about the blockchain technology, digital assets being exploited by actors who are pushing the Great Reset agenda? Do you have any concerns for the future?
What is the Great Reset agenda?
Okay. I don't want to assume. So if the person can actually expound more, that'll be great. And
Okay.
then Reggie can actually answer that question because that is kind of broad because different people got different understandings of the Great Reset or perceptions of that. So we'll have, if she's still in the mix, please expound more to that. I'm sorry. Okay, so there's people are funny in this chat. Okay, they are really being very direct. I don't know if you want to answer this or not, but I am going to post it. Okay, you can
Okay.
decline. Would you please explain the term "useful idiots"?
Okay. A useful idiot. If I'm not mistaken, it was coined during the Cold War. Um, the Russian Secret Service used it often in their information services. Their version of the CIA and KGB is an actual Russian agency. Their version of the CIA, and basically, it's where they take an actor who doesn't realize he's being manipulated to act on behalf of the state. So you can say you convince somebody who thinks they're smart to be anti Reggie Middleton and anti patents, and to tell a bunch of aggressive regulatory agencies Reggie Middleton's a fraud and a scam, and get him and cause him death and etc. And the entity causing this useful idiot to do that would be an entity that would benefit if you had technology that allowed people to act peer to peer. Let's say it's an institution that got 40, $50 billion a year from being an intermediary. And they would benefit if the guy who created technology that eliminated intermediaries were to go to jail or were to be killed or were to be bankrupt. Then the person who is being used to go after that entrepreneur will be a useful idiot. The idiot portion, because he doesn't understand that he's being manipulated, okay, for purposes that do not benefit him. Useful because he's useful to that entity. Useful idiots were used often during the Cold War because they were used to disrupt American politics and social circles, etc. And Americans are very, very adept at doing it themselves. Through social media, they disrupted other countries and political agendas.
So I hope that explains, because Reggie just basically gave you a little snippet of history in reference to that term. So I hope that explains that. I really appreciate you, Reggie, for taking your time out to come and give us some really good information about your journey, because it's historical, it's groundbreaking, and I know you definitely have much more to go in the future. And so we'll be definitely keeping track of you. Please let everyone know where they can actually follow you at. We do see your handles, but give us a closing, whatever you want to tell us.
I am most active on Twitter. That's at Reggie Middleton. Veritaseum has a Twitter handle itself. That's at Veritaseum Inc. But that's mostly for announcements, so retweeting any of my personal stuff that's relevant on a corporate level. The Veritaseum community is active on Telegram. That's at Veritaseum Official. Be careful not to go into the scam groups. If you're concerned about that, you can go through, like I said before, the VeriDAO on Twitter, and they can guide you. That's at DAO_Veri. I'm on LinkedIn. I have a YouTube channel where I post videos of interest. I cover stuff that other people don't. I'm going to start going deep dives into the IP bubble. You have a lot of entities using intellectual property in this space that they don't own and don't have license to. You have a lot of very large entities moving into the space, planning to do the same after the space has been cleared out by certain entities, and they don't have access. They don't have legal right to that IP as well, as per my personal perception. Okay, it's going to be an interesting story. This is David and Goliath at a monumental level. Okay, David is that much smaller. Goliath is that much bigger. But watch out, because David is smart. He swings hard. Okay,
yes,
and we all know what Goliath does. So interesting.
David is smart and he swings hard. You definitely have tenacity, and we definitely will be keeping track of the progress for Veritaseum and yourself. And we appreciate you again. And remember, I want to thank everyone for attending this live Uncut with Michelle Renee and Reggie Middleton. I want you all to be blessed, but yet stay vigilant. All right? Stay vigilant and keep learning. I hope we can do this again, Reggie.
Be my pleasure.